Howdy folks, welcome to Mingles with Jingles episode 8. It's been 8 weeks since I started doing this. That's nearly 2 months. That's not bad. We're going to crack straight on with the first question. This is from Atomic Fury 94. Not messing around here, straight on to business. He wants to know, when you first started doing YouTube, putting videos up, did you get a lot of views right away or did it build up over time? It definitely built up over time. I was not what you might call an overnight success, not by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, if you go back and you look at the very first video I uploaded it on the 16th of June. Actually, it's almost a year ago. And it was just a game that I played in my Type 59. It was a really good game. The first time I earned over 100,000 credits in a match. And it's a short video. It's only about 6 minutes long. It's been up a year, and it's only had 18,000 views. So, yeah. Definitely did not pick up thousands and thousands of viewers and subscribers straight away. It took a long, long time. But I was fine with that. I wasn't doing it to get viewers or subscribers. I was doing it for me. I was just putting up videos of things that I found entertaining and amusing. You've got two different kinds of YouTubers. You've got the guys that play great games. And they don't put technically you've got three kinds of YouTubers. You've got the guys that play great games, really, really good players, and they don't put a commentary on because they might not speak very good English, or they might just be shy, or they might not be good at talking to people. Doesn't really matter. Their games do the talking for them, right? The quality of their gameplay is what they're putting up on show, and that's great, but that means you have to have lots and lots and lots of very, very good games. Now, I don't do that. I'm a better than average player at World of Tanks and War Thunder, but I'm by no means an expert. Then you've got people like me who have okay games, have a couple of great games, but the majority of their games are just slightly better than average. And the commentary is what makes them interesting. So that's me. That's my thing. And then, of course, you've got those lucky bastards who play amazing games and also do good commentary. So, I hate them and I hope they all die. I'm so jealous. But, yeah, you get the idea. Now, what happened with me? Basically, what made me stand out from the crowd of the other YouTubers at first was I was the guy who would not stop uploading videos. I mean, I loved watching Quickie Baby's videos. Quickie Baby's known as a live streamer now. He's getting back into putting YouTube videos up as well. But initially, before Quickie Baby did live streams, he was a YouTuber. So I used to love watching his videos. I used to love watching the World of Tanks tips channel by Highflyer15. And I loved watching Pandy's World of Tanks videos. But these guys would only put up one video a week. Well, when I started off, I was putting up 2, 3, 4 videos a day, and I kept that up for a few months before it became too much, and I stepped it back down to 1 video every day. That's a promise I've made the subscribers. I will always put a video up every day, if I can, and it's a promise I've managed to keep so far. So that was really my thing. I was the guy who just inundated you with content, throw enough shit at the wall. And eventually, some of it will stick. That was my approach. And that got me my initial subscriber base. But what really made it for me was I was having a horrible time at World of Tanks. And I was just having this horrible, continuous losing streak. I couldn't get a winning team for love nor money. And this went on for months. And I was getting so disenchanted with World of Tanks. And then a couple of friends said, hey, have you seen this new game that's just come out in the global beta? It's called War Thunder. It's a flight sim. And I thought, I don't know about that. I'm not very good at flight sims. And I had a go and loved it. And I was in the unique position of being one of the very, very early adopters of War Thunder and spamming YouTube with War Thunder content. And I was one of the first people to do that. And I had the built-in World of Tanks subscriber base. I had around about 12,500 subscribers, I think, at Christmas when I started doing War Thunder videos, and I got a lot of people into War Thunder, and I think word of mouth passed around, and I made my own forum thread on Gaijin's War Thunder forums, and that attracted a lot of people because I was one of the first people to start putting videos up and advertising them on the War Thunder forums. and it was War Thunder that just exploded my subscriber base. And then, of course, the people that were coming to watch the War Thunder videos also saw my World of Tanks videos and started playing World of Tanks as well. And then the final thing that nailed it was, and I'm always grateful to him for this, was Quickie Baby, who had come back to World of Tanks as a live streamer, was watching my videos and heard that I wasn't having much fun in World of Tanks anymore, and invited me to take part in his live stream, and that sort of reinvigorated my interest in World of Tanks. And so, and that was, it was getting into War Thunder, and then a month or so later getting back into World of Tanks and having fun and putting good World of Tanks stuff up again. That really is what, I almost went viral. I was gaining 1,000 subscribers every day. Just doing what I'd always done. But I think it's people, and it goes back to another question that I keep getting asked. A lot of people will ask me, I'm starting my own YouTube channel. What advice do you have for me? And my advice is always just be yourself. Initially, I was tempted to try to model myself on the guys that inspired me to start putting my videos up in the first place, like Pandy, Quickie Baby, Highfly15, particularly Pandy. I love listening to his voice. But I very quickly realised that people aren't stupid. If you try to be what you're not, they'll spot it. People can spot a fake. It's difficult to fake enthusiasm. People will know if you're lying to them. And so just be yourself. And I hope, I don't know, I'm guessing, that my enthusiasm for the subject matter that I'm covering is obvious, and that's part of what attracts people to the channel. That's my theory. I hope it's right. If it's not, I have no idea why 71,000 of you keep tuning in every day. I'm grateful that you do. It's fantastic to be appreciated by so many people. Just doing what I like, and it's amazing that so many of you also seem to like it. So there you go. That's how I started, and how things built up, and why it is that I keep doing it. Second question comes from Blue in Suit, and he wants to know, Jingles, what are your thoughts on the upcoming ground forces of War Thunder? Would you stop playing World of Tanks if it would be better? I'll answer the second one first. Even if it is better, and that's always a subjective opinion, I probably wouldn't stop playing World of Tanks because I love playing World of Tanks. There's absolutely no reason why you can't play both. If you enjoy both, regardless of which one you think is better, if you enjoy both, they're both free to play. No reason why you can't play both. And that's exactly what I will probably do. So there's no need to worry about me not putting World of Tanks stuff up when the War Thunder ground combat stuff comes out. I'll probably just do both. Now, as for the first question, what do I think about the ground forces of War Thunder? A lot of you by now have probably seen the screenshots. The very, very few screenshots, I think there's only 3 have been released, of the tanks in War Thunder. And everybody's getting very, very excited because they do look absolutely amazing. But let's not get too carried away, okay? It's just 3 screenshots. Right? Anybody could make something look good in a screenshot. I hope that it's going to be amazing, but we don't know a thing about the ground combat in War Thunder. Let's not get too carried away yet. Let's wait for details. Let's wait until we've played it before we start making any judgments. Now, if you were to ask me to speculate about the ground combat in War Thunder, and I need to add a caveat to this, okay? This is pure speculation. I don't have any insider knowledge here whatsoever. I would imagine, my guess would be that the ground combat in War Thunder would be a lot like the air combat in War Thunder, in that vehicles don't have health bars the way they do in World of Tanks and World of Warplanes, for example. That, to me, would be the smart move for Gaijin to do. To make their game as different from the obvious competition, World of Tanks, as possible. So it might be that we'd be looking at a game where if you hit and penetrate a tank you're going to knock it out. Not like in World of Tanks, for example, where... And I'm not saying this is a bad thing, because I enjoy World of Tanks, but in World of Tanks you shoot at, penetrate, and do damage to a tank, but you don't kill it unless you detonate their ammo rack or set it on fire and the enemy player doesn't use a fire extinguisher and it just burns to death. In War Thunder, I would guess that you're going to see, if you fire at a tank, you penetrate the armour, you're going to wreck the interior, and if you don't knock the tank out with the one penetrating hit, then you're going to kill crewmen, wreck modules, you're going to cripple the tank. And that seems to be... That's the way I would imagine it would work. And they're probably also going to do the same thing that they do in War Thunder's air combat, in that you don't just go into combat with one tank. It wouldn't surprise me at all, because you're going to access this all from the same screen. The same, they're going to have 3 different hangar screens. You've got the air hangar that we see in game at the moment, and then there are those 3 tabs are already at the bottom of the screen. So I would be very, very, very surprised if the 3 different sections of the game looked completely different in the research screen in the hangar, or the dockyard, if you like, for the naval section. So you're probably going to see a game like World of Tanks, but with much bigger maps, and with lots more people playing, possibly with more tanks on the battlefield. Because if you're going to have bigger maps, then you have to have more players. That would make sense to me. But again, this is just speculation. Tank combat where angling your armour, taking advantage of the terrain becomes much, much more important than it is... I mean, it's important in World of Tanks, but in World of Tanks, if you fail to angle your armour properly and don't take advantage of cover, you take a hit. Big deal. You've got a lot more health where that came from. But in War Thunder ground combat, it wouldn't at all surprise me to see, you take a hit and that's it, you're out. You've just been hit by a Tiger's 88mm gun, you're driving a T-34. Good night. One shot kill. Because that's what would happen. And realism and historical accuracy seems to be Gaijin's thing. So that would not surprise me at all. Obviously that would be a real pain in the arse in a game like World of Tanks. But in a game like War Thunder, where you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different vehicles waiting to go in, just jump into your next machine and do better. So that would be my guess. But it is just a guess. I don't want everybody going away saying, oh my god, Jingles has said it's going to be like this. I haven't. I really haven't. This is pure speculation based on Gaijin's track record with the aerial part of War Thunder. It would make sense to me if the ground combat game was a lot like it, and I think that could be a really, really good game. A better game than World of Tanks? Maybe, maybe not. Again, let's not forget, Gaijin have kind of had it easy with the flight combat side of War Thunder compared to Wargaming's World of Warplanes. They've had a massive head start. They've got all the experience of the Il-2 Sturmovik, the Cliffs of Dover games. They've this flight combat stuff, that's their speciality. When it comes to the ground combat, on the other hand, they've got a mountain to climb, because Wargaming, at the moment, miles ahead of them. I'm very, very interested in seeing how Gaijin are going to go about trying to compete with World of Tanks. And I think the only winners can be us, because we've potentially got 2 great tank games to look forward to. Next question comes from Piranha Poison 11, and I like this question. He wants to know, Jingles, who was your first crush and why? In 1977, a man called George Lucas released a little-known movie called Star Wars. I was 7 years old at the time. And I've had a crush on Princess Leia ever since. And where Carrie Fisher leads, thousands of nerd girls the world over are only too happy to follow. of course, there's always somebody who's just got to take it that one step too far. You can never unsee that. I'm such a bastard. Next question comes from Gordon Freeman, and he wants to know, Jingles, can you show some good airsoft channels? Yeah, sure. Why not? Links to these channels in the video description, as well as appearing up on screen. I think you can't really talk about airsoft videos on YouTube without mentioning Scout the Doggy. He's a UK airsofter. He's got a lot, I mean a lot, of seriously good quality airsoft videos up. Also, give Devil Dog Gamer a look. He's a former US Marine. I've played with him in War Thunder. I got a video up playing with him. Great bloke. Does a lot of gaming videos. Also starting to do a lot of airsoft content. Now, those of you scratching your heads in puzzlement at this question, thinking, what the hell's airsoft? Do not despair. I went back to Combat South, my old stomping ground, today, and took my trusty camera minion, Eddie, along, and I played airsoft again for the first time in, it must be 7 years. And we got some great footage of the Combat South woodland site, 91 acres of woodland in Hampshire, here in the UK, and some game footage, and a sort of beginner's guide to what airsoft is, how it all works. And as soon as I finish doing this video, I'm editing that one, and I'm going to get it up as soon as possible. So, coming very, very soon on this very channel, Airsoft with the Mighty Jingles. I do hope you enjoy it. I certainly had a lot of fun going back and seeing the old faces and shooting people, which is always good for a laugh. So that video to come very, very soon. Next question is from Milkmice. He asked a whole bunch of questions. I'm going to answer one of them here. Jingles, what's your favourite musical genre? The reason I wanted to answer this question was because I very recently put 2 videos up that I just knew was going to attract so much hate, even as I was uploading them. They were Dubstep Tanks and Mother Russia, and they were 2 World of Tanks music videos. Dubstep Tanks, as the name suggests, was a dubstep tune, and Mother Russia was the Mother Russia song from the Sisters of Mercy, a very, very early, genre-defining goth band from the 1990s. And I hadn't ever uploaded 2 videos that attracted more negative comments and thumbs down than those 2 videos. And I knew it was going to happen, but I did it anyway. And that kind of links onto this question, because immediately I put the Dubstep Tanks video up and it was like, oh my god, Jingles, I didn't know you liked dubstep. I don't. Sorry. I really don't, as a genre, I don't like dubstep. And then I put the Mother Russia video up and people were like, oh, Jingles is a goth. No, I'm not. I don't really like much gothic music. I liked that Sisters of Mercy Floodlands album, and in particular that track from it. I'm not one of those people that you can really label as being into metal, or being into rock, or being into pop, or being into rap, or whatever. I like all sorts of stuff. I don't really like dubstep, but I loved that one dubstep song. First heard it in a Corridor Digital video about a year ago called Dubstep Guns, which was a brilliant video. I recommend everybody watches it. And again, also with the Mother Russia Sisters of Mercy track, I'm not a massive fan of the Sisters of Mercy, but they released one album in the 90s called Floodlands, which was just, I thought, was amazing. I know a lot of you won't, but I don't write off entire musical genres and never listen to any of them. As I said, I don't really like dubstep, but I did like that one dubstep song. I'm not a pop music fan, never have been, and yet I do like some pop songs. I like some Kelly Clarkson, I like some Katy Perry, but I'm not a Kelly Clarkson fan, and I'm not a Katy Perry fan. If you had to nail me down to one particular genre of music, it would be hard rock. And most of you probably guessed that. couple of my favourites are a British rock band called Thunder that most of you probably never heard of. I was a massive fan of Def Leppard in the 90s, still am. Bands like Led Zeppelin, Whitesnake, John Cougar Mellencamp, artists like Steve Earle. If I was to start name dropping the stuff from my music collection, you would shake your head in disbelief. I mean, on one hand, I've got lots of AC/DC. I think AC/DC are fantastic, both before and after Bon Scott died. We'll start name checking stuff here and see how many of you recognise the sort of stuff I listen to. But as I say, I've got AC/DC. I've also got Alicia's Attic, All About Eve. I've got some Billy Idol. I like the Black Eyed Peas, Bon Jovi. A big fan of Bryan Adams. I like some stuff by Catatonia, the Stereophonics. I've even got a Celine Dion album. Let's see, what else? A band called the Dan Reed Network. A Swedish band from the 90s called the Electric Boys. See how many of you Swedes out there remember those guys. Massive fan of Def Leppard. I love Evanescence. There was a rock band in the 80s called Extreme that I still have 2 albums of and I still listen to today. Big fan of Faith No More before they split up. Huge fan of guitarists like Gary Moore, Joe Satriani. I've got some Glenn Miller stuff, some big band swing music from the 40s. All sorts of stuff. Stuff that most of you probably... Actually, well, then again, you never know. You guys who were listening to music in the 80s and the 90s might remember Jesus Jones, John Parr, Journey. I love some of the more modern stuff as well. KT Tunstall, I think, is fantastic. I love the Stereophonics. Massive fan of Led Zeppelin, Linkin Park, The Little Angels. I like some of the Nickelback stuff. I love Pink Floyd. Queen, huge fan of Queen. Rage Against the Machine, love their stuff. It just covers all different kinds of genres, but mostly rock, but with, other stuff thrown in. Van Halen, fantastic, Whitesnake. But then, you go from a band like Whitesnake to a band like Wilson Phillips. You might have to look them up. You can't really tie me down to one genre. I'm a fan of quality in all of its forms. I think it's probably the safest thing to say. But if you did try to nail me down to one particular genre, I would say that I probably listen to more rock music than anything else. British and American rock music. Bands like Def Leppard and Whitesnake or Bon Jovi, Led Zeppelin. That kind of thing is probably my favourite. The next question doesn't come from any one of you. Hundreds of you have asked this question or something like it. As you know, I'm going to Tankfest at the Bovington Tank Museum this year on the 30th of June, Sunday the 30th of June. And there's a whole bunch of you guys are also going to Tankfest if you're lucky. And a lot of you have asked, Jingles, how will we recognise you when you're at Tankfest? And do you mind if we come up and speak to you, if we see you? I would be absolutely delighted if you guys recognise me and come and talk to me if you see me at Tankfest, or any of the museum visits that I'm planning to do. But obviously Tankfest is the big one. In fact, I'm probably going to take along a whole bunch of spot prizes to give away to people who recognise me and come up to me and talk to me. Not sure what it's going to be. More details on that in future videos before I go to Tankfest, just so you know exactly what's happening. So yeah, absolutely. If you spot me at Tankfest, by all means, come up, say hello, shake my hand. You never know, you might appear in the Tankfest video that I'll put up after Tankfest is over. How are you going to recognise me? Well, I'm going to make it as easy as possible. In fact, I've prepared 2 very short video clips that address that very subject. So I've had a couple of questions of how you're going to recognise me if you see me at Tankfest and want to come up and say hello. Look for the guy in the 82nd Airborne kit. I shouldn't be too hard to spot. Generally speaking, most people that wear US Airborne gear from the Second World War, they all wear 101st Airborne Screaming Eagles, pretty much because of Banner Brothers, and I thought I'd stand out from the crowd and I go 82nd Airborne. Or alternatively, since it is Tankfest, I could be wearing the Panzer Crewman uniform. Haven't quite decided. Probably going to go with the American.
As you can see, this one isn't finished yet. I don't have any of the badges on it. Still missing the side cap, and I don't have the boots. But I'm working on it, and maybe for a future visit.
I've actually decided since recording those 2 clips, it's going to be the Panzer crew uniform. So look for the fat, bold, bearded white guy in the German Panzerwaffe uniform. You'll probably be able to spot me hanging around the wargaming stand or at the various exhibits at Tankfest. So looking forward to seeing you guys there. Next question comes from Calby868, and he wants to know, Jingles, what was the reason behind you deciding to choose the Navy over the Air Force or the Army? And he asks this, bearing in mind my fascination with all things tanks and aircraft. It's a pretty good question. The answer is probably going to be a lot more simple than you would imagine. I picked the Navy because the Navy were advertising. It's as simple as that. It's kind of strange though, because I was just basically desperate to get away from home. I was 19 years old, working a part-time job in Newcastle in the northeast of England at the end of the 80s, and it was not a great place to be young and stupid. There were no jobs around, and I had to get away from home because my parents were driving me mad. You know what it's like when you're a teenager. And the Navy were advertising. It was as simple as that. If the Army or the Air Force had been advertising, I would have probably joined the Army or the Air Force. I literally just took the first ticket out that I could find. And I was pretty lucky because I've loved almost every minute of being in the Navy. Surprising that I didn't go for the Army, because my family does actually have quite a tradition of serving in the Army. As far as I'm aware, I'm the first person in my family to ever join the Navy. I don't think we've ever had anybody in the Air Force either. I've got a cousin who was in the Royal Pioneers, another cousin who was in the Durham Light Infantry, 2 uncles who were both in the Army Catering Corps. My father was in the Parachute Regiment. He got kicked out of the Parachute Regiment and joined, you're not going to believe this, I swear it's true, he joined the French Foreign Legion and died on active service with the French Foreign Legion somewhere in North Africa. That's all they would tell us. The reason they wouldn't tell us more than that was because I was 14 when he died. We were actually living in Swaziland in Africa. And we didn't find out. I mean, he left my mother when I was 2, and my first sister had just been born. And I must have only seen him 3 or 4 times after that, until I reached the age of 12, and then my mother and my stepfather took us all to South Africa. And we'd been in South Africa and then moved to Swaziland. Been living in Swaziland for a year when we heard the news that he died. So you know, there's no need to give me your sympathies. I didn't know the man. I think the last time I saw him alive, I was 7 years old. He'd come back to. It was the first time in years he'd come back to see his children, and he cut his parachute wings off his jump jacket and gave them to me. That's one of the only things I can ever remember him giving to me. And then we left the country, and 2 years later, we got the news that he was dead. So, yeah, I had a father who served in the French Foreign Legion. As Michael Caine would say, not a lot of people know that. Anyway, moving on. I like this question. Lewis Hill wants to know, Jingles, if I drove through your house in a tank, what would you do? I'd probably shit my pants. What do you think I would do? Yeah, I'd steal your tank. That's what I'd do. Yeah, definitely. My tank. My house, my tank, my rules. Get out of it, bitch. Yeah, that's right. Don't fuck with the mighty Jingles. Yeah, I like that question. Next. Next question comes from Pandy. Yeah, that's right. Pandy, the man himself, asked a question on my last Mingles with Jingles video. Pandy wants to know, if you were stuck on a desert island, what tank would you take with you? An amphibious one. Yeah, that's right. You've got to get up pretty early in the morning to catch this gnome lying asleep. Welcome back to YouTube anyway, Pandy. It's good to see you putting videos back up again. Next question comes from Mr. Reaper1171. He wants to know, who's the most famous person you ever met? I've met a bunch of the royals. Well, when I say I've met them, I haven't really met any of the royal family. I have been there when there have been members of the royal family around. You can't do 22 years in the military and not meet a member of the royal family. I was on, I think it must have been HMS Manchester, Cows Week on the Isle of Wight. It's a big event in the yachting calendar, and as I think Princess Anne is president of the Cows Yachting Club, and so as we were guardship for the event, Princess Anne was on board the Manchester, but I didn't meet her. She was just there, and I was a member of the ship's company. I saw her, and that's about the closest I can say. Similar with Prince Charles. Prince Charles it was during the First Gulf War. I was on HMS Brazen, and we popped into dock at Riyadh. Prince Charles was out there. He was visiting various different army regiments, and then he came on board our ship. He used to be the commanding officer, I think, of... I can't remember the name of the ship, but he was the skipper of a frigate. And our CO, Commander James Rapp, was Prince Charles's navigator when he was on Prince Charles's ship. And so Prince Charles decided that he's going to, show his face around the Navy as well. He would start off with HMS Brazen because he knew our captain. And I can remember when he came up the gangway, he it was quite funny actually. He basically screwed up his salute. The Army, the Navy and the Air Force all salute differently. The Army salute with an open palm. The Navy and the Air Force salute with their palm pointing down, the same way the Americans salute. So he's in his Army uniform, and he's going up the gangway into a Navy ship, and he got to the top of the gangway, brought himself to attention, and in his Army uniform gave the Navy salute. And he'd got to about the count of 2 on the salute, realised he was given the Navy salute while wearing an Army uniform, and immediately flipped his palm over, hoping nobody had noticed. Everybody noticed. So yeah, he screwed that one up, and we all saw it. But again, I didn't really meet Prince Charles. I was just there when he embarrassed himself coming over the gangway on HMS Brazen. I suppose the most famous person I ever actually met, as opposed to just, bumped into, or was around when they were there, would have been, and he's not going to be that famous unless you're British of a certain age or into the sport of cricket, because I met a very famous British cricketer called Jeff Boycott when I was 12 years old. We were in South Africa. In fact, we'd moved from Newcastle in England all the way to Newcastle in South Africa. You couldn't make that up. And I was at high school. South African high schools are totally different to British schools. They would have 2 different award-giving presentations every year. They would give the academic awards, which are obvious, and then they would also have a sports awards prize giving. They take the sport very, very seriously in South Africa. Well, anyway, they would always try to get somebody reasonably famous in to dish out the awards. But when we're talking famous, we're talking a local celebrity, like the guy who ran the tobacco plantation outside of town, whatever. The guy who'd sponsored most of the school sports equipment. That kind of celebrity. Well, anyway, this year, it must have been 1982. I would have been 12 years old. Although I could be wrong, it might have been whatever. It was 1982, 1983. The height of apartheid in South Africa. South Africa had been embargoed and boycotted, quite appropriately enough, boycotted by just about every nation in the world. And there was a sports boycott going on. South African rugby and cricket teams couldn't play against anybody. Anyway, the British cricket team, or the English cricket team rather, did a rebel tour of South Africa that year, led by the captain, Jeff Boycott, a famous player for England and Yorkshire. And by some miracle, Jeff Boycott happened to be in Natal, in South Africa, province of Natal, where Newcastle was. And the school managed to get him to come along and give out the prizes for that year's sports prize giving. Now, I wasn't really into sport at all, but I'd heard who Jeff Boycott was. And during a break, in the prize giving, I went to the bathroom, to go to the toilet to have a piss. And I'm standing there in the urinal, and the door opens, and Jeff Boycott walks in, and there's just me and him in the toilet. Don't get any funny ideas, right? It's not that kind of story. And I'm basically standing there taking a piss next to Jeff Boycott. So naturally, I asked him for his autograph. The guy's standing there holding onto his cock. And there's a 12-year-old boy asking him for his autograph. So yeah, that was how I met Jeff Boycott. And I got his autograph. So, it all worked out. Now, we're approaching the end of the video, and as a reward for those of you who've listened this far, I have a giveaway. Now, don't get too excited. It's for people who don't play World of Tanks. I have an invite code for World of Tanks. Now, this is for new players only, so if you don't already have a World of Tanks account, this is for you. If you do already have a World of Tanks account, this is going to be useless. So it's for new players only. It's worth 250 gold, a week of premium, and a Tetrarch premium tier 2 light tank, which is a fantastic tank. It's the tank that I scored my highest ever kill record of 12 kills in one game in World of Tanks. And the invite code is popping up on screen right now. So if you don't play World of Tanks, but you're interested and you want to give it a go, the first person to input this invitation code will get the prizes mentioned. Just in case it wasn't obvious how to go about claiming the prize, you literally go to the World of Tanks website, start a new account, and when you get to the part in the registration process where it asks you if you have any special codes, just input the code, and then bingo. If you're the first one to claim it, when you start the game up, sitting there in your garage will be a brand new premium tier 2 Tetrarch light tank. I should really thank the subscriber who sent me this code. He was already a World of Tanks player, so he didn't need it. He got it from PC Gamer magazine, but I can't remember his name. I'm really, really sorry. I'm such a bad Jingles. I don't deserve you guys, I really don't. Anyway, that's it for this week's Mingles with Jingles. I hope you've enjoyed it, found it amusing. As always, if you have any questions that you would like me to answer in the next Mingles with Jingles, leave them in the comments to this video. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to answer all of them, but I tend to look for the ones that I think I can give the most amusing, entertaining, or informative answer to. Stay tuned, coming up soon on this channel, my first airsoft video. It's going to be fun, I promise. I certainly had a lot of fun playing again. And I hope you guys might find something else new that I can introduce you to that you will also find interesting. As always, folks, take care on that battlefield. Watch your six, and I will catch you next time.